Single father rejected on blind date for being poor, until a millionaire surprises everyone. Jake stared at his reflection in the mirror, feeling every bit of the weight on his shoulders as he adjusted the fraying collar of his shirt. He had never longed for wealth, but undeniably, moments like tonight, dressed down in a small-town mechanic's attire, echoed against the polished lives of the affluent. Emily had meant well, pushing him toward a blind date with a glamorous real estate agent named Sarah. Her excitement was palpable, but Jake's chest tightened with anxiety. What was he doing, trading the comfort of his garage for a night of judgment? When he arrived at the upscale restaurant, Jake's heart sank. He gripped the fabric of his plain button-up as if it could shield him from the attentive stares. Sarah's face fell as she adjusted her position on the plush seat of their table. Their conversation strayed too quickly into superficial topics, his job as a mechanic and his modest living. Each word felt heavier, and with every dismissive suggestion to skip dessert, Jake's embarrassment grew roots. Humiliation twisted in his gut, an insistent reminder of his struggles, beating against a heart that only wanted to be seen for who he was, not what he lacked. His crippling sense of inadequacy gnawed at him, amplifying the doubts always lurking beneath the surface. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Returning home, surrounded by the familiar chaos of toys and laughter, Jake felt a fleeting sense of relief. His kids were his everything. They were the reason he fought against the tide of unrelenting bills and societal expectations. As he tucked them into bed, their innocent smiles reminded him of the joy buried beneath the struggle. But even this simple act was tangled in worry. What if he couldn't provide for them? What if the world continued to define worth by dollar bills and titles? Days later, an old envelope discovered among his late father's belongings shifted everything. Inside was a deed to a hidden property he never knew existed. His heart raced. Could this be the chance he'd been seeking? The potential burden felt overwhelming, almost too colossal. Pride and terror danced together as he faced choices that could alter everything. But could he afford to embrace a sudden influx of responsibility amid his fading self-worth? Embracing this inheritance or resisting it felt agonizing, a conflict entwined in love for his children and the fear of becoming something he swore to. Then Jake crossed paths with Sarah again, this time in connection with a local initiative that challenged their contrasting worlds. As she spoke about bridging gaps, he found himself uncharacteristically drawn to her. She was no longer just a dazzling figure of wealth. Vulnerability radiated from her, a mirror to his own struggles. But before they could unravel their complicated threads, chaos erupted in her world. Would the scandal engulf her, leaving behind emptiness and regret? While Jake felt that pressure, he also sensed the walls of judgment closing in. How could he reconcile his modest life with the pressures of an unexpected fortune? With uncertainty thickening the air, Jake stood at a precipice, balancing love, ambition, and the looming dread of loss. Each decision swirling within could tip the balance, and as he braced for what lay ahead, he realized some choices would reverberate far beyond himself, testing not only his resolve, but reshaping identities he thought were solid. The following week, Jake found himself poring over the deed to the property, tracing the letters with disbelief. It was not just land. It was as if a piece of his father had landed squarely in his hands, a legacy disrupted by loss, yet alive through this unexpected chance. But was it worth the whirlwind of life changes that loomed? Each morning felt heavier than the last, the weight of potential future pressing against his chest, constricting each breath. He couldn't shake the thought of claiming something that belonged to him and his children. Yet each possibility felt tangled in fear. What if he wasn't ready? What if the sudden responsibility soured the sweetness of his current life? With newfound determination, Jake decided to investigate the property further. It had been uninhabited, dormant for years. This strange patch of land held history he did not know and dreams he did not dare entertain. He needed to assess the feasibility of turning what was once just a burden into something profitable. As he took his truck out to the countryside, he felt a flicker of anticipation tempered by the familiar grip of doubt. The drive felt like a pilgrimage, each mile a journey not only to the unknown property, but also into his fears. Could he transform his life, or would he spiral into yet another cycle of unrealized dreams? The landscape shifted from urban to rural, the buildings receding and the trees standing tall, a reflection of his internal chaos, a clash between the grounded reality of his daily struggles and the ethereal possibility of change. Arriving on the property, Jake stepped out into an expanse of wild grass and scattered debris. It was untamed, much like his own life. He wandered through the land, eyes scanning for potential, but all he could see was the daunting task before him. Nature had reclaimed what was once thriving. "It's just like me," he muttered under his breath, a mess in need of repair. However, amid the chaos, he spotted a dilapidated structure, an old barn, its outline faintly visible in the overgrowth. His heart raced as he approached. Here was evidence of what could be reclaimed. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and beams were worn, yet steadfast. Suddenly, a surge of energy ignited within him, a realization that sometimes beauty lay buried beneath layers of neglect. Jake picked up tools and began clearing debris, finding hidden strength he hadn't acknowledged before. With each sweep of his arm, doubt receded, replaced by the thrill of possibility. He envisioned this barn transformed into something vibrant, welcoming, the center of family gatherings, a community space, or even a business venture that could spin the wheel of fortune in his direction. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the landscape, Jake's resolve solidified. This could be his chance to redefine not only his future, but also the narrative he had been so tightly bound to. He couldn't afford to keep waiting for permission, for validation. This was about him and his children. But just as determination kicked in, his thoughts drifted back to Sarah. Would she see him differently now? Did she ever truly see him at all? Their paths had crossed in a world so foreign to him, yet somehow an unexpected connection began to form. Despite their differences, perhaps there was more unity than either had initially recognized. With the warmth of the evening wrapping around him, Jake made a decision. He would not only reclaim the land, he would also confront the scenarios haunting him. But as they turned to leave, an unsettling thought lurked at the edge of his mind. What if he dove headfirst into this project, only to discover not strength, but another reason to fear judgment? The doubt clawed back, whispering uncertainties. Determined but teetering on the edge, Jake knew the clock was ticking. Tomorrow would be a day of choices, and those choices would irrevocably alter the path before him. The moment of truth loomed closer. Would he possess the courage to transform not just the land, but also his life's narrative? Finding the answer felt like a gamble, one that might cost him everything or open doors he never knew existed. The next morning greeted Jake with a crispness in the air that stirred a sense of urgency within him. The barn loomed in his thoughts, a physical representation of both potential and vulnerability. As he sipped his coffee, the steam curling into the air mirrored the swirling doubts that tangled with his resolve. Today wasn't just another day, it was the beginning of a meticulous journey, one that he hoped would shatter the chains of mediocrity binding him. After some reluctant deliberation, he made a list of contacts. Contractors, real estate experts, and local business owners who might lend insight. Each call, each conversation felt like a tightrope walk between ambition and fear. The anticipation of rejection loomed over him. What if they saw him as just another desperate dreamer? Yet the stakes were too high for him to back down. His first call was to a local contractor he had heard about, someone reputed for taking on challenging restoration projects. Jake fought back an anxiety-ridden gulp before dialing. A firm voice answered, and Jake felt an odd mix of excitement and dread wash over him. The conversation was straightforward. He pitched his vision for the barn, its potential as a rustic wedding venue, a cozy shop, or a family gathering space. Each idea, he sensed, could breathe new life into his home and, by extension, his family's future. "Sounds like you have a plan," the contractor replied, intrigued but cautious. "But remember, it takes a lot of work to transform something that's been neglected that long. You need capital, time, and resilience." "I've got the will," Jake said, surprising himself with his own conviction. "I'm ready to dig in." Just like that, Jake could feel a faint pulse of possibility stirring inside him. The prospect of responsibility no longer felt like a weight, but rather a catalyst for transformation. He hung up the phone and exhaled audibly, the tension easing from his shoulders. The rest of the day unfolded as a whirlwind of activity. Jake mapped out a plan of action, envisioning phases of renovation and budgeting his expenses, tapping into savings that had seen better days. Each step solidified the resolve swelling within him, turning fear into fuel. But as evening drew its curtain, Jake found himself stalled. The doubts that had been silenced began to rise again, magnified by the prospect of confronting Sarah. What if she rejected the idea, viewing it as another misguided endeavor? The thought twisted in his stomach. Would revealing his hopes be seen as foolishness? He paused, staring out the barn window at the setting sun, the horizon ablaze with color, as though the world urged him onward. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was Sarah, asking to meet up later. Anxiety knotted in his chest. She was not just someone who had struck a chord with him. She was a reminder of the life he deemed worthy of a better version of himself. As he prepared for their meeting, he grappled with a formidable question. Could he open up about his plans in the barn? Would he risk vulnerability for the chance of connection? Yet, amidst the worry, he also felt a flicker of excitement. This was more than a date. It could be a pivotal moment toward embracing what he truly wanted from life. A sense of urgency swelled in him as Jake readied himself. He donned his best shirt, one that felt slightly overambitious for a casual evening, but he needed to reflect the man he could become, not just the one he had been. The moment loomed as he left the house. Would he step into the unknown, a new life, and a potential partnership, or retreat into the shadows of self-doubt? Courage fluttered in his chest, battling against the weight of uncertainty. As he stepped onto the path toward their meeting place, a deep breath filled his lungs. Perhaps tonight would unravel new chapters, fear and determination intertwining, leading him toward a future he had barely dared to envision. But as he approached the restaurant, a shocking realization hit him. The past had come to haunt him now, and it bore the face of an uninvited ghost. Had he truly left behind the life he once knew, or was it all just an illusion waiting to collapse? Jake's heart raced as he let the prospect of the looming conversation with Sarah swirl in his mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust. The familiar restaurant, with its warm lights and the smell of garlic wafting through the air, felt both welcoming and foreign. He was stepping into a space filled with possibility, a chance to redefine himself, yet it was suffocating in its familiarity. Would Sarah see the man he aspired to be, or just another failure wrapped in hope? As he entered, the sound of laughter hit him first, a stark reminder of the joy that had felt elusive for so long. He spotted Sarah at a small table by the window, her laughter like chimes in the evening breeze. His breath caught in his throat, caught between admiration and self-doubt. She was radiant, her energy radiating like sunlight piercing through clouds. He couldn't let his insecurities overshadow what he hoped to share. "Hey," she called, her smile igniting something warm inside him. "Hey," he managed, sliding into the chair opposite her. They exchanged pleasantries, the usual small talk that clawed anxiously at the edges of Jake's thoughts. As the conversation flowed, he felt the desire to share his vision taking root, a tender green shoot pushing through the earth, yearning for sunlight. But then came the fateful inquiry. "So, what's been on your mind lately?" She leaned in, eyes curious. Jake's heart thudded. This was it, the moment he had both yearned for and dreaded. "Actually, I've been thinking a lot about the barn." The words tumbled out, carrying both weight and hope. He outlined his plans, transforming it into a charming venue, a hub of community joy. As he spoke, he observed Sarah's expressions shift from intrigue to contemplation. "How do you plan to fund it?" she asked, her tone cautious but kindly. Jake felt the familiar swell of anxiety rise again. "I'm working on budgeting, and I've reached out to some contractors. I know it's a big undertaking, but I really believe in it." "Jake, that's amazing. I can see the passion in your eyes. Just—" Her voice dropped to a lower register, the concern evident. "It's a risk. Are you sure you're ready for all that?" The doubt seeped in like ink in water, clouding his vision as he wrestled with an internal storm. "What if I'm not?" he challenged both her and himself. "What if this is exactly what I need?" Sarah paused, searching his face. "I wouldn't want you to lose everything. Just be careful." Her words hung in the air, laced with care but echoes of fear. They stirred something within him, an unyielding flame of determination battling against the weight of his past. Did he really want to let fear guide his decisions? "I understand," Jake said slowly, swallowing hard. "But if I let fear dictate my choices, what does that mean for the future, for my kids, for me?" Sarah's expression softened, but Jake saw the friction in her gaze. Was she seeing a man struggling against himself, or a man ready to claim his ambition? As the night wore on, the conversation shifted to lighter topics, both of them skirting the heavier emotions lingering in the background. Yet, he felt a strange mix of hope and impending doom. There was a slight shift in the atmosphere, a crack forming in his bravado. As they parted ways, he brushed his fingers against hers and felt the warmth linger. But he couldn't ignore the tugging anxiety growing in his gut. The ghost of his past loomed larger than before, memories of failures and missed opportunities wrapped in the guise of concern. What if he returned to that haunted past? Could he escape it while pursuing this vision? In the days that followed, he would have to confront the truth of his ambitions and the depth of his resilience. The question echoed in his mind. Was he willing to face the rejection, not just from Sarah, but from the fragments of a life he had been trying to leave behind? The journey ahead stretched out before him, uncertain and daunting, and the stakes were increasingly high. As dawn broke one day, while he stood contemplating the barn, he realized this was only the beginning. He would have to delve deeper, uncovering truths about himself he had been too afraid to face amidst a growing storm. And there it was, a realization striking like thunder. If he didn't confront those shadows now, could he ever truly honor his vision? The moment was at hand, a reckoning approaching, as he steeled himself for the conversation that would follow, a confrontation that would either unravel his dreams or ignite the spark of change. Jake awoke to the soft light filtering through his bedroom window, illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the still air. The barn loomed large in his thoughts, a powerful symbol of both potential and risk. As he sat up, he felt the weight of his aspirations compressing his chest, a dual-edged sword of hope and anxiety. Today was critical. He had decided to reach out to a local business expert, someone who might provide guidance to transform an idea into reality. He dressed quickly, the fabric of his shirt rough against his skin, as if it was testing his readiness for the day ahead. Each button he fastened felt like a small victory, but he could still sense the lingering unease. Would seeking outside help be a sign of strength or weakness? As he drove through town, Jake's mind veered into a familiar labyrinth of self-doubt. The route to the business consultant's office passed the old school, the park where he once played fetch with his dog, and even the bakery where Sarah had baked before stepping away to explore other endeavors. The ghosts of those memories shadowed him, whispering caution. As he pulled into the parking lot, he briefly closed his eyes, offering a silent prayer for clarity. In the lobby, he scanned the room, taking in the sleek furniture and polished surfaces. Each detail represented a different world, one he felt increasingly distant from. The consultant, a well-dressed woman named Evelyn, greeted him with a friendly smile that belied the uncertainty tumbling in his gut. Her confident demeanor was reminiscent of Sarah, but where he saw warmth, he also felt slightly intimidated. "Jake, it's great to meet you. I've reviewed your proposal," she said, diving into the business plan he had sent over. Each word she spoke was more than just feedback. It felt like an examination of his worth. "Thank you. I want to make it a community space where people can gather, celebrate, have events," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, studying him intently. "Your passion for this is clear, but passion alone won't secure funding." Her tone shifted slightly, the gravity of her words creating a tremor of fear within him. "You need a solid business model, market analysis, and a strategy. Have you considered what sets your venue apart?" Jake swallowed hard, the truth sinking in like a stone. He had been so swept up in the dream that he hadn't fully grasped the mechanics of making it functional. "I want it to feel like home, a refuge," he managed to say, but the uncertainty crumbled his resolve. "Identifying your why is crucial," Evelyn continued, her incisive focus unsettling. "But it's also about proving its viability. Potential investors want to see numbers, impact charts. You'll need to demonstrate how this is not just a labor of love, but a sound investment." As he listened, Jake felt a sense of revelation dawning. The intricacies of running a business became clearer. He wasn't just trying to reclaim his past. He was forging a new identity. "What do I need to prioritize?" he asked, feeling a blend of vulnerability and burgeoning determination pulsating through him. "Research, networking, and understanding the market," she instructed, diving deeper into the specifics. Each piece of advice felt like a lifeline thrown to him amidst a turbulent sea of doubt. "It won't be easy, but building a foundation means more than just having the barn. It means developing a sustainable vision." Jake nodded, invigorated by each insight. It was uncomfortable, challenging, yet exhilarating. He was stepping out of the shadows. Confronting the reality of his ambitions demanded all of him, but in that moment he glimpsed a glimpse of the man he could become, a fighter, a creator. As he left, the weight of doubt began to lift, tempered by a newfound sense of purpose. He was ready to work. But even as excitement surged through him, a sense of trepidation remained. What would Sarah think as he navigated this path? Would she see his evolution or judge him for the risks he was taking? That night, he opened his laptop, determined to glean every bit of information he could. As data flowed before him, he realized he was no longer just dreaming. He was taking tangible steps, flailing against the currents of his tumultuous past. But as he pushed forward, a gnawing thought loomed. Was he prepared for the transformations ahead? The stakes were rising, and with it, the anticipation of what lay beneath the surface. The time to delve deeper into his struggles and triumphs had arrived. He would have to confront new fears head-on, and, perhaps, even welcome Sarah into this evolving journey unexpectedly. And the next morning offered that unforeseen possibility as Jake pondered a conversation he had avoided too long. What if he asked Sarah to join him on this journey? Jake's heart raced as he sat at his kitchen table, its worn surface a reminder of both his past and present. The morning sunlight streamed in, illuminating stacks of papers and scattered notes. He had spent the early hours organizing ideas, concepts he had once dismissed, now transformed into a tangible roadmap to his dream. Yet one thought remained. Could he extend this new trajectory to Sarah? The idea felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He recalled their last conversation, the undeniable rift that had formed between them over the years. It wasn't just about their shared history, it was a reality he had built, one marked by distance and misunderstandings. The prospect of inviting her back in, of sharing his aspirations, posed a considerable risk. But as he flitted through the details of his business plan, the potential seemed just as daunting without her. Jake believed in the power of their connection, how they used to inspire each other to chase ambitions, and how that energy had gradually faded. Would that spark reignite, or would their shared past loomed too large to bridge? A distance distorted by uncertainty filled the air as he pulled out his phone. He thumbed through his contacts, hesitating. The seconds dragged on as he battled with his conflicting desires. Pride urged him to act independently, while a deep-seated yearning for collaboration tugged at his heartstrings. Finally, he couldn't hold back any longer. "Hey Sarah, it's Jake. Do you have a minute to talk?" He held his breath, listening to the way her name rolled off his tongue. Would she hear the sincerity in his voice? Sure, Jake. What's up?" came her tentative reply. The warmth in her tone created a flicker of hope. "Would you be open to meeting? I have some things on my mind about the barn and, well, I want to see if we can collaborate." A pause followed, one that felt like an eternity. "Collaborate?" she echoed, confusion tinging her voice. Her skepticism was palpable, and Jake felt a rush of doubt. "Why would you want to involve me now?" He sensed the tension in her voice and steeled himself. "Because I believe in what we can create together, and I think we could help each other grow." After a long pause, Sarah finally said, "I need time to think about it." Her words were careful, cautious. "Of course," he responded, trying to mask his disappointment, but urgency bubbled beneath the surface. As they ended the call, Jake felt energy drain from him, but a flicker of ambition sparked anew. He wasn't just reaching out to Sarah for the sake of nostalgia, he was leveraging a partnership that could be transformative for both of them. Could rekindling their connection lead to a revitalized vision for the barn? He spent the day immersed in research and planning, the minutes morphing into hours as he conceptualized how Sarah's skills as an event planner could synergize with his vision. Ideas flowed like a current, pairing her organizational expertise with his hands-on understanding of the space felt like a winning combination. But as the hours passed and dusk approached, the realization hit him. Sarah was one aspect of this puzzle, but he had to explore what else he needed to grow. If Sarah decided not to join him, he would need to confront that reality and find the confidence to stand alone. Later that evening, Jake realized his journey toward realization involved more than merely waiting for Sarah's response. He had to practice stepping into his new role as an entrepreneur, network with others, and even consider potential investors. Start gathering resources, paths, and knowledge beyond the confines of his current beliefs. With a determination solidified, he set a new goal: identify 3 local businesses that might support his endeavor. Scouring the internet for contacts, he envisioned not just a venue, but a thriving ecosystem. But as he drew closer to clarity, was he ready to contend with the unexpected challenges that lay ahead if Sarah chose not to join him? Drowning in mixed emotions, hope, fear, ambition, Jake felt an urgency pulse through him. He needed to be prepared for a world of possibilities, where collaboration and independence could coexist. With that realization hanging in the air, he understood the next steps were critical. Every move he made could lead him closer to his goal or veer him off course entirely. And just as the night wore on, a thought gripped him. Who else could he reach out to? Perhaps there were more unexpected connections waiting to be discovered, ready to push him beyond his comfort zone. The journey was beginning, and with it, the horizon stretched larger than he ever imagined. Jake rose early, the faint light filtering through his window, igniting the lingering thoughts of uncertainty. Though it had been only a few days since he reached out to Sarah, the prospect of her involvement continued to swirl in his mind, like a persistent breeze teasing a half-formed plan. He had shifted his focus, diving into exploring local businesses to secure potential partnerships. Despite this newfound ambition, the chance of rejection loomed over him like a storm cloud. He made his way to the nearest cafe, determined to confront his self-doubt head-on. As he settled into a corner booth, he could feel the vibrancy of his surroundings, the hum of conversations, the smell of fresh coffee mingling with baked goods, buzzed with opportunities yet to be realized. Yet, even in this energizing atmosphere, Jake battled an internal conflict, the weight of his past insecurities pressing down on him. Sipping his coffee, he turned his attention to the business proposal documents sprawled before him. Names of local boutiques, catering services, and party rental companies lined the pages, alongside contact details he had painstakingly compiled. Each name represented a path toward validation, a battle against the narrative he had long fostered of being unworthy in the entrepreneurial world. What if they judged him? What if they laughed at his plans? It was all too easy to let those thoughts spiral, but he resisted the pull. No more hiding behind layers of hesitation. He needed to confront his fears like the entrepreneur he aspired to be. With a deep breath, he designated one business to reach out to first, a unique event space known for its aesthetic charm and community involvement. Jake dialed their number, his heart pounding furiously. The receptionist's cheerful voice felt like a beacon. He stumbled through his pitch, intertwining excitement with his ambitions for collaboration, his words sometimes falling over themselves in a scramble. "I want to create something special, and I believe we could work together to make that happen." The response was unexpected but invigorating. The manager was intrigued and requested a meeting to discuss ideas. After hanging up, an electric rush surged through him. This was a step forward, a breakthrough of sorts. The fear that had previously paralyzed him began to dissipate, replaced by a flicker of momentum. But one victory did not erase the dilemma of Sarah's uncertain participation. The dragon of anxiety re-emerged. Would she be willing to join this venture? Would she support him with her talent if he cleared this preliminary hurdle? The low hum of possibility coiled around his thoughts as he left the cafe, invigorated, yet still grappling with hesitation. Back at home, he opened his laptop, poised to continue his outreach. He knew each connection could lead to potential allies, but he had to be cautious. The more opportunities he unearthed, the more he felt the stakes heightening. What if he reached out to more businesses and still ended up pursuing this dream alone? As twilight descended, Jake caught sight of a message tone vibrating across his phone. His heart quickened at the thought of it being Sarah. But when he checked, he was met with a promotional message from an industry conference designed for aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. Something about it sparked an idea. What if he attended? It could provide exposure and possibly valuable leads while growing his network. The moment filled him with both excitement and dread. To step into a space where others might assess his worth based solely on his ambition felt daunting. But wasn't that the very essence of growth? Leaning into discomfort began to feel like a necessary step toward transformation. As he finalized plans for attending the conference, he paused. He needed to have an answer ready whenever Sarah chose to engage again. The thought lingered, pushing him to prepare, not just for the venture, but for reconciling their past. Before he could harness the full potential of the future, he would have to face what lay between them. Just as he finished his preparations, another wave of anxiety washed over him. How would Sarah fit into this bright new picture he was constructing? Could their history silently dictate the outcome, or were they both capable of rewriting it? He understood then that opportunities were waiting to be seized, but so were revelations that might change everything. The grind was far from over, and new questions loomed just beyond the horizon. Would his attempt to rekindle their partnership open doors, or would it lead to a closure he feared he wasn't ready for? The morning of the conference arrived with a cascade of emotions swirling through Jake. He stood in front of the mirror, running a comb through his hair, while glancing at the navy blazer he'd borrowed from his father. It felt slightly tight, a sobering reminder of the years spent buried beneath layers of self-doubt and inertia. He understood that appearances could carry the weight of first impressions, but he also wanted to project confidence that belied his internal chaos. As he walked toward the conference venue, each step echoed a refusal to retreat. The air thrummed with anticipation, mingling with the faint hum of excitement that wrapped around him. Yet with every stride, the inner voice that whispered his insecurities grew louder. What if no one took him seriously? What if he stumbled over his pitch again? He shook his head and pushed on, determined to stand tall amongst others who also ventured into the unknown. Inside the bustling atrium, vibrant banners fluttered above booths overflowing with promotional materials. The sound of chatter and laughter filled the air, creating an exuberant symphony that resonated with every hopeful entrepreneur in the room. Jake took a deep breath, the amalgamation of confidence and trepidation swirling in his chest. He had come too far to let fear reign. This was about seizing the moment, about proving to himself and to others that he belonged. He could feel a horizon filled with possibilities stretching before him, yet doubt lingered just on the edges, ready to lash out. He made his way through the throngs, engaging in small talk, learning about others and their adventures. Behind the platitudes, he began to uncover genuine stories. A woman who had pivoted from corporate work to a passion project, a young man who had transformed his hobby into a successful e-commerce business. Each conversation sparked something within him, a realization that everyone in the room was fighting their own battles. Then he saw her, Sarah. It was as if time had paused. She moved through the crowd with the same grace that had captivated him back then, even as she engaged with an enthusiastic group discussing strategies. Jake felt a rush of emotions, nostalgia, longing, and a hint of regret. The question of whether she had found success loomed over him, complicating his thoughts. His heart raced. He wrestled with the impulse to approach her. But hesitation gripped him. Jake decided instead to turn his focus outward, reminding himself he was here to network, not to dwell on the past. The first workshop he attended was about effective pitching, and he absorbed every word, his journal filling with notes. The speaker spoke about vulnerability being a strength, about how presenting oneself authentically could attract allies and collaborators. Jake felt a spark ignite, a realization that the very insecurities he battled were points of connection with others. Fueled by this insight, he gathered the courage to introduce himself to a group that caught his interest. "Hi, I'm Jake," he said, forcing his voice beyond the quiver of uncertainty. As they chatted about their business ventures, Jake revealed bits of his own story, the struggle of starting from nothing yet brimming with ambition. The conversation shifted from small talk to deeper exchanges about visions, aspirations, and the lessons learned from failures they each faced. With each new connection made, Jake felt a layer of doubt peel away. Yet Sarah remained at the corner of his mind, each passing moment tainted with the question of her presence in this evolving narrative he was crafting. Would she see the transformation? Could their shared history foster a rekindling of their partnership? Or would she view him as merely a flash from the past? As the day wound down and small clusters of attendees began to exchange contact information, Jake caught sight of Sarah's approach. The moment drew nearer, yet a pulse of anxiety surged through him. The unpredictability of this encounter meant everything. Would he find affirmation, or would it deepen his insecurities? His heart raced as he took a steadying breath, ready to confront whatever awaited him. The opportunity to reconnect and reshape their dynamic had arrived, but would he seize it? The path forward felt exhilarating, yet terrifying, and primed for revelation. With the weight of possibility heavy on his shoulders, he knew that this was a crucial turning point in his journey. What would happen if he chose to step into the arena, both literally and figuratively, challenging the narrative that had held him captive for so long? Jake's pulse quickened as Sarah drew closer. She was just as he remembered, her smile bright, her eyes sparkling with the kind of confidence he always admired. But beneath his eagerness lurked a gnawing anxiety that threatened to swallow him whole. Would she recognize the changes in him? Did he have what it took to really connect this time? "Jake!" she exclaimed, genuine surprise lighting up her features. "I didn't know you'd be here." He offered a smile, feeling both buoyed and exposed. "Yeah, it's my first conference, trying to take a leap into the unknown." "That's so exciting! What's your project?" Her interest was sincere, and he felt an immediate rush as she engaged him without preconceived judgments. It anchored him amidst the chaos. Jake took a deep breath, recalling the empowering lesson he had just absorbed on vulnerability. "I'm working on a platform that helps people turn their passions into businesses. It's still in the early stages, but I believe it can help a lot of struggling artists and creators who don't know where to start." "Wow, that's impressive," she said. "Are you getting traction?" "Slowly," he admitted, "but every connection feels significant." There was a moment of silence that hung heavy, filled with the unsaid words and shared past between them. "How about you?" he asked, momentarily deflecting the spotlight. "Your last venture was really taking off, right?" Her eyes shimmered with memories before a flicker of hesitation crossed her face. "It was. I've since shifted focus. I'm currently working on consulting for small businesses. I want to help others succeed. There are so many great ideas out there waiting to be brought to life." Jake felt a sense of admiration seep in. She had always been tenacious, channeling her passions into successful outcomes. But instead of feeling small, he felt inspired. Her journey illuminated his own path forward. Just as they were beginning to form a real connection, an enthusiastic newcomer interrupted, inserting himself into their conversation with overwhelming energy. Jake recognized him from earlier discussions, a savvy entrepreneur known for his meteoric rise. "Sarah," he exclaimed, "I've been trying to find you. We need to discuss how our projects intersect. Jake, you should join us too." The sudden shift in dynamics knocked the wind out of Jake. Was this the moment he had been waiting for? A chance to prove himself, to engage with someone whose success he admired? But questions loomed larger than opportunity. Did he really have something valuable to contribute? He felt the familiar weight of inadequacy creeping back. "Sure," Jake replied, unsure if his voice carried the confidence he wanted. As they moved to join the group, Jake's thoughts raced. In this new circle, he could either succumb to self-doubt or reclaim his narrative. Each silent query rooted in fear fought against the budding determination sparked by their earlier conversation. In the midst of discussing business strategies, Jake caught snippets of collective achievements, innovative approaches, and fostering support networks. With every insight shared, he felt the stirrings of self-awareness deepen. He had been paralyzed by the urge to succeed perfectly when perhaps mastering the art of engaging and sharing stories was what he needed to embrace. Riding the wave of newfound confidence, he ventured to voice a thought, something he had hesitated to share. "I think storytelling could be a powerful tool for our projects. People connect through narratives, and if we can make them see the humanity behind our ventures, we can build stronger connections." The room fell silent as the concept lingered in the air. A keen discussion blossomed as his peers responded with lively enthusiasm. They didn't just validate his input, they built upon it, expanding the conversation that he had feared to initiate. The thrill coursing through him felt exhilarating and profound. In that moment, Jake realized he had stepped into the arena, not just in Sarah's presence, but in front of a kick-starting opportunity. This was about creating a narrative that represented not just him, but also the ambitious spirit of those around him. Later, amidst the chaos, Sarah approached him again. "You really brought something valuable to that conversation. Your perspective resonated with everyone." Jake summoned the grin he held tightly. "Thanks, it means a lot coming from you." Their eyes locked briefly, and for an instant he felt the past and present dance together, two paths converging again. But as their conversation deepened, the unspoken challenges waiting on the edges of this newfound connection became unavoidable. Would they reconcile their past, or was this just another moment slipping through his fingers? "Jake," she hesitated, a shadow of uncertainty passing over her. "I need to ask you something about us." In that moment, Jake's heart beat with a mix of hope and fear. Would this conversation unlock another chapter, or would it leave him at a crossroads again? What direction would it take them both towards? Jake stood in the soft glow of morning light as he faced a pivotal moment in his life, the echoes of yesterday merging seamlessly with the promise of today. The adrenaline from the conference still raced through his veins, the thrill of connection igniting a fire in his soul. It wasn't just about the barn anymore. It had transformed into a pathway for growth, both personally and professionally. After the successful discussions at the conference, including his invigorating conversations with Sarah, Jake felt an undeniable shift. His confidence, once encased in fear, unfurled like a flag, symbolizing not just victory over his insecurities, but a bold declaration of intent. The weight pressing down on his shoulders had morphed into a sense of responsibility and purpose. He was ready to take the reins of not only his destiny, but also to embrace an emerging partnership with Sarah. In the days following the conference, Jake channeled every ounce of energy into revitalizing the barn. He meticulously crafted a detailed business proposal, integrating elements of community engagement and storytelling into the fabric of his vision. The truth had dawned on him. He wanted his space to be more than just a venue. It would become a haven where dreams could flourish, where stories of resilience and ambition intertwined, igniting a spark in the hearts of everyone who passed through the doors. Jake reached out to Sarah again. This time, he was armed with a clear vision and an open invitation. He asked her to become a part of the project more formally, with a partnership based on mutual respect and shared dreams. He recalled the glimmer in her eyes during their last conversation, the way she lit up when discussing potential collaborations. He was determined to harness that spark. When she finally agreed to meet, the anticipation fluttered in Jake's stomach. As they sat in a quaint cafe, the conversation flowed with ease, intertwining their shared experiences and resonating ambitions. When he introduced her to his proposal, outlining how they could blend their strengths, the business acumen she possessed and his grit, Sarah's face transformed from skepticism to intrigue. "I see a real opportunity here, Jake," she said, her voice rich with possibility. "Having a space that encourages collaboration and community storytelling could initiate something beautiful." Jake's heart raced. They discussed plans, strategies, and goals late into the night. No longer two individuals circling each other cautiously, but rather a duo poised to reclaim their narrative. With each new idea emerged a newfound respect for one another, revealing a connection they had both long overlooked. Yet the final part of this transformation would be unveiling not just his ambitions, but also the lessons carved from his journey. With Sarah by his side, they ventured out into the town to introduce their vision to potential partners. The response was overwhelmingly positive, as local businesses began to rally around the idea of revitalizing the barn into a vibrant community hub. As the weeks passed, Jake's life evolved. He watched as the vision unfurled before him. A previously neglected structure was now filled with laughter and creativity, drawing in families, young couples, and artists seeking space to showcase their work. He and Sarah navigated challenges together, collaborating seamlessly, building on one another's strengths. Every hurdle became an opportunity, a testament to the growth each was experiencing. But it wasn't just the barn that changed. Jake felt his entire being shift. He found joy in the process, a serenity that replaced fear. He became a father whose children could watch and learn the values of resilience and ambition. They were now a part of his journey, each event held in the barn instilling in them a sense of community and creativity. At the grand opening of the barn, Jake stood before a crowd of friends, family, and the community that rallied around his dream come to fruition. It wasn't just a celebration of the space, it was a tribute to the journey of transformation he had embarked upon. As laughter filled the air and music serenaded the atmosphere, he felt the heavy chains of shame and self-doubt shatter. He had achieved not just professional recognition, but personal triumph. He was a man whose narrative had solidified into one of courage, vision, and authenticity. Feeling Sarah's supportive presence beside him, he turned to her and smiled. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice steady and confident. "Together, we can inspire others to find their voice and chase their dreams." With their new partnership, they had conquered the chasm of uncertainty that once separated them. They were now collaborators, friends, and perhaps a burgeoning couple united in a shared passion. As Jake scanned the faces around him, each one a testament to the changes they had sparked, he took a moment to embrace not just the accomplishment, but the fulfillment and joy that came from daring to reach for more. Every day ahead offered unlimited potential, and he would embrace it with open arms, ready to challenge the boundaries that had once held him captive. The fight against his insecurities was far from over, but he stood fortified, prepared to navigate whatever challenges lay ahead, no matter how daunting. Transformation was continuous. His success, now woven into the very fabric of his community, was a reminder to persist even in the face of rejection or negativity. And above all, Jake had learned one critical lesson. True richness was not defined by money, but by the courage to embrace one's dreams alongside those who believed in you. Embrace your own transformation. Dare to step into your story. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.